time for us to talk about renewable energy in Africa. When it comes to energy resources, talk about water, hydro, biomass, and the rest. Africa is blessed, but it's been challenging maximizing these resources. And what are the issues? What are the problems? Let's see what our guest will have to say about this. He's an expert when it comes to renewable energy. We are being joined by Nutsu Jojo Cyril, who is the former head ICT unit, Office of the Honorable Minister for Science and Technology. Glad you have joined us on Daily Exchange this morning. Let's start the conversation looking at renewable energy in Africa. From the introduction that I did, I said that when it comes to energy resources, Africa is blessed. Talk about solar, talk about water, talk about hydro. We're blessed. But how will you assess the rate at which African countries are maximizing these resources to improve energy supply in Africa?
I'll start by saying that when it comes to utilization of natural resources, it has over time been a record that countries blessed with enormous natural resources have failed to graciously utilize them to the benefit of their populace. To this effect, I will personally say that Africa has not done wonderfully well in this regard, and this is our inability to conduct research and development to adopt adequate technologies to be able to put into proper use these natural resources. For instance, when we look at the case of Nigeria, we are looking at our natural resources in the energy sector, the oil and gas, the coal, municipal waste, biomass, and so many others have not been properly used. Rather, they've constituted a nuisance to us because looking at the oil and gas, we flare gas, which has endangered the lives of people living in the region where these gas reserves are. And when it comes to municipal waste, our waste management system is not apt. I will mark it below 50. When it comes to other natural resources, same. And if you look at it, this cuts across the, so to say, substantially in percentage across the entire West Africa region. So I would say that we've not done wonderfully well as Africans to manage natural resources, to put our need for energy to proper perspective to better our lives. Thank you.
All right, the world is moving, gradually moving away from fossil fuel to renewable energy, but Africa is still dwelling much on fossil fuel. South Africa, for instance, is saying that it will burn coal for a long time, indirectly saying that it is not in a hurry to transition to renewable energy. What are your thoughts on this?
I don't have any reservation with respect to that. See, we embrace what is alien to us for a very long time as Africans. If South Africa is doing well and its energy needs are being met through burning of coal, why don't they continue and transition to renewable energy with time? See, the world, whose people are the world? It's still us that are the world. So we can't embrace what we can't practice. South Africa is doing well with coal. They don't have a, so to say, energy crisis as such, though they have not met what is supposed to be. So if they are doing well with coal and they intend going on with coal, then they should go on with coal. Because I think the production lines in South Africa can't be sustained with renewable energy right now, the way things are going. So I think that should be the more reason why they should say we'll burn coal for a long time. Because when we talk about energy, we talk about the quality of energy. How much can you do with the energy that you are supplying or you are producing? If you can't do much with it, then you have to look for a much more better source that will give you more quality. Thank you.
Even on the issue of generating energy from coal and the transition to renewable energy, there seems to be a kind of hypocrisy around this. Now, while the West is advocating for renewable energy, some countries in the West are seriously generating energy with coal. What do you make of this?
Just as I rightly said in my last statement, you see, you use the word transition. When we are transiting, you are transiting bearing in mind the need of the moment. If the need of the moment cannot be postponed or delayed for the transition, then the need of the moment will override the transition process. So you have to actually look at what the need is, what you need to do to maintain the status quo while transiting. So if you look at the West, most of these Western countries, they have thrived using coal as a major source of energy. And since they have been using this, they have not met challenges. Then what is the, when I ask the question, what is the need? Why this transition to renewable energy? Because of global warming, so to say. If we are looking at that, global warming did not start today. The cry for global warming to environmental remediation and all that linked to the effect of burning fossil fuels is something that has been a cry over the years. So for me, I would say that the Western world, other countries in the West, I won't say that they are not doing well, but I would say that what are their needs for which they are taking decisions. Their needs might not be what can be dealt with the transition if they transit so fast fossil fuel. So they can go on with burning of coal while they embrace new technologies and new ways of generating energy. For instance, have you ever considered using methanol to generate energy? And how will it help in the scheme of things when you talk about quality of energy? Thank you.
All right, you just made reference to what we also need to talk about, which is how to also generate energy from methanol. You've done some projects in this regard. I would like you to shed more light on this, give us orientation how it's going to work, and then how can Africa key into this?
Let me start by saying I will use Nigeria as a case study here and refer to some other countries across the globe. Firstly, I will say that methanol is a ubiquitous liquid, is a base liquid for the production of so many materials that we use. But coming to energy, methanol can be used as a feedstock, power energy generating plants, gas turbines. So you now have a methanol-fired turbine to generate electricity. And this electricity is quite sustainable and the quality is very high. Let me give you an instance. If you have a 7 kVA generator in your house and you generate electricity with it, and that generator, the electricity generated from that generator happens to shock you, you will find out that you will end up not being electrocuted, though you might feel some shock, you will not feel fine, as compared to if the national grid, talking of the power generating body of the country, now electricity from that shocks you, you might be electrocuted. So when we talk about quality of electricity, we are talking about how much can this go in terms of production. If we have a production line and it's powered by small generators, you won't get the best. But if it's powered by big generators, you get the best. So when we talk about energy, we talk about quality of energy. So if you are looking at renewable energy and looking at methanol, I will tell you that let us go for methanol generated electricity for one singular reason. One, we have the raw materials in Nigeria. What are the raw materials for methanol production? We have the coal, we have natural gas, we have municipal waste and biomass, decomposable municipal waste, so to say. So if you look at this feedstock, how have they been used in helping the socio-economic life of Nigerians? You find out that they have not been optimally used. How do we use them? Nigeria today pays penalty, international oil companies, IOC, pay penalty for flaring gas. And this penalty goes into the gas flare penalty cost. What are these funds used for? Are they used for the purpose of ensuring that gas is not being flared, or are they used for other purposes? I will tell you this: they are not on record. They are not properly used. to solve the energy challenge in the country. So I will advocate, and we are still advocating, that there is this policy, the National Policy for Methanol Fuel Production Technology, that was approved by the Federal Executive Council and is gazetted. This policy says and states that the national roadmap to energy sustainability can be achieved by deploying methanol to generate electricity. As we speak today, that policy is in existence, and there is actually no methanol plant on ground. So how do we move forward from there, from where we are? I will actually ask those that are in authority that have this on their table to understand that the socio-economic growth of Nigeria cannot be achieved without Nigeria embracing a methanol-driven economy because of the availability of raw materials in Nigeria, the population of the citizens in Nigeria, and the fact that most of the things Nigerians use are derivatives of methanol. That means the methanol value chain has to be critically looked at. What is the methanol value chain? The entire processes to determine, can I go on? The entire processes to determine which feedstock to use for methanol production. That is an assignment for a group of people to carry out. Setting up a methanol production facility, entire assignment for other people to carry out. Production of the methanol itself, another assignment. Before that, conveying or piping the feedstock to the methanol plant is another assignment for people to carry out. The production of the methanol itself is another assignment. The haulage of the methanol to where it to be used is another assignment. The utilization of the methanol itself in various sectors. In the construction sector, where you use methanol for particle boards production, for adhesives, the chemical sector, where methanol is a base liquid for disinfectants, insecticides, and all whatnot. The production line sector, where we have the plastics and the plastics. Methanol is a base liquid for that. The textile sector, the energy sector, you can go on and on. The health sector, the agri sector. So if we have this properly integrated, we'll find out that we'll have a value chain that will create enough jobs and empower people. Because when people cry that they don't have proper means, adequate means of livelihood, you now ask the question: what are they contributing to human existence to have this adequate means of livelihood? It is the work of government, the work of the organized private sector, to create this opportunity so that the average Nigerian will wake up in the morning and say, yes, I have this job to do, and it is profitable and dignifying. So I will ordinarily, as we have been doing, advocate that let everybody focus and look into the policy document, National Policy for Methanol Fuel Production Technology. This way, we will generate enough electricity. Then we cannot look at renewable energy. Because if you look at renewable energy, its value chain is also a very large one. What do I mean by that? Renewable energy, we are talking about how do you even house the energy that is generated. We're talking about lithium batteries. Nigeria, from recent records, have enough lithium reserve of high-grade lithium in various parts of the country. And what is government doing with respect to that? How do we intend to ensure that these reserves are put into productive lines to be able to have products that will empower the people produced here? Now, if you talk about lithium batteries are imported into the country, whereas we have the capacity to produce lithium battery in Nigeria because we have the feedstock. All we need to do is to embrace the appropriate technologies. So coming to the real thing that needs to be done, we have to critically acquire technology or grow technology, or by buying technology. Where we find out that the global trend has crossed certain lines and we need to make sure we need to buy technology. We need to call those that have practiced this to come and partner with us so that At the end of the day, are we doing? We are not reinventing the wheel. Rather, we are taking it up from where they stop and maybe go into further R&D to progress the whole show. So Nigeria, to address her energy needs to critically, one, utilize all natural resources using proper technologies to be able to solve the energy challenges of the country. Let me stop at that for now. Thank you.
All right. The methanol market is projected to be worth approximately $61.7 billion by the year 2030. There's a huge market for it now. Those countries who are already leading in terms of the export of methanol, we have Saudi Arabia, the United States and Netherlands. And then the import side, we also have China having high demand for that, the US and even Netherlands again. But you've talked about how much Nigeria can do with methanol. And you also mentioned technology, research and development, talking about partnering with those who have the technology while we have the primary products here. But like we've seen in cases where Nigeria has the primary products but does not have the technology, it doesn't always seem to go right. It still remains more like an exploitation for those who come with the technology. So what can be done right in this case to ensure that the value chain is really set up and all the benefits Nigeria can have from methanol it has?
Let me take us back to an incident that happened in, I think 2 years back, if my memory serves me right, where a certain volume of fuel, petroleum PMS, was imported into the country, and users complained about it knocking their vehicles, and they said it is a blend of methanol. That was actually a phase of the implementation of the national policy of methanol fuel production that was wrongly done. The policy never stated that methanol should be blended with PMS in a certain ratio outside the shores of Nigeria. It stated that methanol should be blended with PMS in a certain ratio for spark plug engine vehicles in Nigeria. The product blending should be done in Nigeria using certain additives. But here we are, the operators, the importers of these products went ahead, went to another country, blended the product and brought it in, and it was not compatible with the vehicles that are being used here, or blended the wrong ratio. That means we are exporting our jobs. Nigerians would have done that blending. And if that blending is done here, where we make mistakes, we'll correct them. But that was done, and I think we've learned from that as a mistake. Going forward, the Federal Ministry of Petroleum Resources, with the National Local Content Management Board and NMPCL, in 2021, if my memory still serves me right, January or February, so signed a business investment decision of $2.3 billion US to build a methanol, a fertilizer to methanol plant complex in Brass in Bayelsa State. 2.3 billion. You just said that the total market, the total methanol market globally is 60-something billion dollars. Here we are using 2.3 billion for a single methanol plant, whereas that can be splitted. And you see, methanol plants are set up at locations close to feedstock. So if there is gas in Brass, which we all know there's gas in Brass, and a methanol plant is to be built there, must it be that gigantic, looking at the cost implication? Can't we think back the errors, the mistakes we made during the refineries, where we had these technologies built, used to build these refineries, and we don't have turnaround maintenance know-how because our citizens, our professionals, our experts were not participatory in the process to acquire technology. So what I would say is this, is a process. The first thing is this: identify those that have done this globally. There's the Methanol Institute. I think it's situated in Singapore. The head office is headquartered in Singapore. Methanol Institute. And they have companies that are in partnership with them.
Now, let's talk about nation Nigeria, looking at the situation in Nigeria, as someone who has been following the trends, I would like you to make an assessment of what are the challenges peculiar to our energy mix and what are some of the solutions that should be put on the table to resolve these challenges as regards energy mix in Nigeria.
One of the things that I will emphasize on is this. You see, you have to actually carry out an assessment to understand what the need is, what should be done, how it should be done. What the need is this. We need reliable energy. What should be done? The energy should be generated in Nigeria. How do we do this is the question. Now, how to get this done? Number one, there are various sources of energy that we can embrace. But which ones do we have the technological know-how to deploy? And what are we doing to acquire or develop this technological know-how? If we look at, let me say, energy for the transport sector, we are still using fossil fuel PMS. And CNG has also come. People are not yet embracing it. Why? Most people don't have that initial capital of finance to take their vehicle to be for the kit that will help their vehicle function using CNG. Most people don't have that. So you now see people knowing that, yes, I can do this to ease cost of transportation, solve my energy needs in terms of transportation, but I don't have the resources. So what should government do? Government should first of all set up an awakening reorientation program that will get every Nigerian to understand that the transport sector needs to embrace CNG. I'm using CNG as an example. Now people are aware that the transport sector needs CNG. And when the transportation, people are aware that transportation needs CNG, the government should make available intervention funds. You see, government has gone ahead to make funds available for other things, and palliatives when it comes to the people are hungry. But to make interventions available and accessible for those that want to be productive enough, we've not seen it deployed properly, we've not seen it done properly. So government should make available incentives, most especially for people that are into transport business. For instance, if I have a fleet of buses, I can take the particulars of those buses as collateral and the buses themselves as collateral. And government will give me resources to transform those buses into CNG, those vehicles into CNG vehicles, and use them for profitable engagement with the transport sector to make more money and pay government back. All I'm saying is that we can't get this thing done government alone. It has to be a public-private partnership arrangement where government gives the enabling environment, gives incentives, and help to make sure that people are aware, give people the right orientation. Most often what happens here is that there is an incentive and the publicity to let people know that these incentives exist will not be properly done. And those close to government operatives or operators will be aware and not take advantage of it. And they are not actually the best people to assess these things because they might not have the vision nor the will to pass through the fawners, because take it or leave it, once you start embracing something new, you always have teething problems. And that is what I mean by passing through the fawners. You should have the resilience to know that, yes, there will be challenges, and you brace up to meet up with those challenges. So for me, at this point in time, I would say that, number one, government should embrace and ensure that every public player and private player is aware of what needs to be done and put regulatory bodies in motion to get these things done.
Looking at some of the challenges too with the energy mix, having that integration of both the fossil fuel and renewable energy solutions, do we have what it takes to have that happen? And even for renewable energy that some parts of Africa is embracing, it is quite expensive, at least the upfront cost. How can that, the issue of the funding be addressed? Would some partnership be needed, maybe public-private partnership? Speak to it, please.
See, when it comes to funding, it's all about priority. The case of Nigeria is a case of priority. Let me give you an instance. These things are all out there for you to find out. The Federal Executive Council, during the last administration, approved certain funds for the takeoff of implementation of the National Policy on Methanol Fuel Production Technology. Shortly after this approval was given, and these funds are to come from the gas flare penalty cost. Shortly after this approval was given, the COVID-19 vaccine procurement issue came up. And government had to dip hands into that purse to get some funds to add to other funds. But the funds from the gas flare penalty was contributed massively to the purchase of the first batch of COVID-19 vaccines. What am I trying to say? You can't rob Peter to pay Paul. You can't deprive the energy sector what it needs because the health sector needs something. Because it is actually the energy sector that powers every other activity related to every other socio-economic activity in this country. So, for me, it's a thing of priority. Now, what do I mean by priority? Government should understand that for Nigeria to get it right and citizens gainfully engaged, socio-economically engaged, Nigeria needs to put into proper use every available raw material that humanity has identified as useful. To do this, all funds available, irrespective of where these funds are coming from, should be narrowed and used for these purposes, the purpose of putting into proper use these natural resources. Let me give you an instance. We are so disturbed. Nigeria is so challenged because as we speak, even the educational system is thriving on PPP because our traditional educational institutions, let me say most of our primary schools, the government primary schools, are not thriving as much as the private primary schools. So with the secondary schools and so with the universities. So you find out that even in the educational sector, what is thriving is PPP. Where are they getting funds to fund these educational institutions from nursery, primary, secondary to tertiary? If government can answer this question, then government should know how to access funds as intervention funds to fund activities of the oil and gas and energy sector. If government fails to do this, the private sector cannot play any other role. Because me, if I am a private investor and you ask me to bring XYZ amount of money to invest in a sector, the first question I ask you is, what enabling environment has government provided? And for government to provide enabling environment, government has to commit some resources, counterpart funding, and then create the enabling environment so that the investor, whether the individual, local, sourcing international funds or not, the investor feels secure that at least this venture would take some time before government regulations that will come with respect to change of governance will affect operations and activities. So the way forward is government should prioritize these things, and operators of government should take it as a burden, a challenge, to see that these things get the needed attention. Else, we'll still be doing merry-go-round. Thank you.
All right, let's wrap up with this statement credited to the Power Minister in South Africa, insisting that coal-powered electricity will exist for a longer period. And if you look at the narrative now in most of the big nations like China, India, and Germany, which has the largest utilizers of coal in the world, will you say that this advocacy for net zero emission is going to be a reality by 2050?
Let me say something. Please permit me to take us to COP26. We have 2022. The main focus of this course is how to reduce methane emission. Because methane emission is the greenhouse gas that is culpable for causing climate change, global warming. And ever since this statement has been made, conventions signed, government supporting it, there has not been a clear discourse on how to stop methane venting and emission. With respect to that, if we now look at the use of coal for electricity generation, people are benefiting from it. And because people are benefiting from it, and government, the global powers, government of the universe, so to say, they have not addressed how to stop methane venting. And one of the ways to stop methane venting is to embrace methanol value chain, convert the methane to methanol. Methane is the feedstock, primary feedstock for methanol production. So if I'm to answer your question directly, the zero net emission vision 2050 is going to be a mirage if we don't identify and state clearly how to stop methane venting and emission at the United Nations Convention. They have always said it, but they have been quiet about how to stop it, because that is the most precious business on ground now. But people have not known, and people are yet to embrace it.
Thank you so much, Nutsu Jojo Cyril, who is former head ICT Unit, Office of the Honorable Minister of Science, Technology and Innovation, for talking with us today on the transition from renewable energy, from fossil fuel to renewable energy. Now, he ended by saying the Vision 2050 will be a mirage if what is needed to be done is not done. We do hope that at this point in time, all the research that we need from our institutions, or the science institutions in Africa, that would need to that development is done. There should be some form of synergy between the research institutes and the tech companies, the industries, to ensure that this vision is achieved, as much as we also need government to provide the framework for this to happen.
Early exchange, shaping policy, advancing development.